Welcome to Wild HOA Situations. She treated a fence panel like a felony. Stop filming me and start complying. That is what Donna screamed at me while I stood in my own front yard with my phone out, recording her as she waved a tape measure like a sword. She claimed the HOA owned the airspace, and my fence invaded it. The fence posts were still in the truck. I had not driven a single screw. I am a security systems installer in Anchorage, Alaska. I understand cameras. I understand privacy laws. I know exactly what I can record on my own property. And I know when someone is making up rules to suit their agenda. Donna Evans, Community Standards Chair for the Enclave at Stonegate Landing Association, had been waiting for this moment since the delivery truck pulled up 20 minutes earlier. She stood on the sidewalk with her pink bucket hat tilted back, her gray windbreaker zipped to her chin, and a stack of pre-filled violation forms clutched against her chest like a shield. The forms already had boxes checked. She had planned this. "You think this is petty, I think this is my purpose." That was what she said when I asked her why she was here before I had even unloaded the first post. She said it with pride, like selective enforcement was a calling. I kept the phone steady. Donna stepped closer, close enough that I could see the fine print on her forms, though I could not read the actual text from this angle. She jabbed a finger toward the truck. "You should have read the rules before you moved in, sweetheart." I had read the rules. I had submitted plans. I had contacted the Architectural Review Committee 6 weeks ago and received written approval. I had a permit from the city. I had hired a licensed contractor who was scheduled to arrive in 2 hours. Everything was legal and documented. Donna did not care. She pulled out her tape measure with a dramatic snap and walked to the property line, her boots crunching over gravel. She hooked the end on the curb and stretched the tape toward my driveway, muttering numbers under her breath. Then she turned and pointed at me. "This is a setback violation. You are 3 inches over the easement." I was not. The survey I had on file showed clearance. But Donna was not interested in surveys. She was interested in control. I told her I had approval. I told her the city had issued a permit. I told her my contractor was licensed and insured. She waved it all away like smoke. That approval is outdated. We updated the guidelines last month. I asked her to show me the updated guidelines. She refused. She said they were in committee review and would be published after the next board meeting. I asked her how I was supposed to comply with rules that did not exist yet. She smiled. "Ignorance is not an excuse." Then she slapped a violation notice on the side of my truck. The notice was dated 3 days ago. It referenced a hearing I had never been told about. It claimed I had missed the hearing and was now in default. The fine was $250 due immediately, with an additional $100 per day late fee starting tomorrow. I read the notice twice. The hearing date was fake. I had checked my mail every day. I had checked my email. I had received nothing. Donna crossed her arms and waited for me to react. I did not give her the satisfaction. I took a photo of the notice with my phone, then folded it and slipped it into my pocket. I nodded like I accepted it, because I wanted her comfortable and careless. She took the bait. "You are going to remove those posts by end of business today, or I am authorizing a lien on your property. We have a contractor on standby who will do the removal at your expense." I asked her what contractor. She did not answer. She just turned and walked back toward her car, a silver sedan parked 3 houses down. As she walked, she pulled out her phone and started typing. I kept recording until she drove away. The moment she was gone, I called my contractor supervisor, a man named Gil who had been installing fences in Anchorage for 15 years. I told him what happened. He laughed, but it was not a funny laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had dealt with Donna before. She pulled this on another crew last year, claimed they were blocking drainage, shut them down for 2 weeks. Cost the homeowner $5,000 in delays. I asked him what I should do. He told me to sit tight, keep everything documented, and let him make some calls. Then he said something that stuck with me. Donna does not go after everyone. She picks people she thinks will fold. You work nights, you are not around much, you have that custody schedule. She thinks you are an easy target. He was right. I work nights installing security systems, which means I am gone most evenings and I sleep during the day. I share custody of my daughter, and my visitation routine is strict. The HOA had been watching. They knew my schedule. They knew when I would be vulnerable. Donna was not targeting my fence. She was targeting my time. I spent the rest of the morning building a timeline. I printed every email I had sent to the Architectural Review Committee. I printed the approval letter. I printed the city permit. I printed the contractor's license and insurance certificate. I printed the survey map that showed my property line and setback measurements. I put it all in a 3-ring binder with tabs and page numbers. Then I called the HOA management company. I got a receptionist who transferred me to an assistant who transferred me to a voicemail. I left a message explaining the situation and asked for a copy of the updated guidelines Donna had referenced. I did not expect a call back. I was right. By the time I woke up that evening to get ready for work, I had no new messages. But I did have a new envelope taped to my front door. It was a second notice. This one claimed I had started construction without approval and was now subject to an emergency stop work order. It included a photo of my truck with the fence posts visible in the bed. The photo was time-stamped from this morning, minutes after Donna left. The notice also included a new fine, $500 for unauthorized construction, plus a mandatory inspection fee of $300, plus an enforcement surcharge of $200. The total was $1,000. It was due in 7 days. I read it twice, then I read it again. The language was carefully worded to sound official, but it was full of vague phrases like in violation of community standards and failure to adhere to approved specifications. There were no specific rule citations. There were no measurements. There was nothing I could actually dispute. That was the point. I took photos of the notice and texted them to Gil. He called me back within 5 minutes. He was angry. This is extortion. She is making up fees to squeeze you. You need to lawyer up. I told him I could not afford a lawyer. I was barely keeping up with bills as it was, and my custody agreement required me to maintain stable housing. If the HOA put a lien on my property, I could lose everything. Gil went quiet for a moment. Then he said something I was not expecting. I know a guy, security supervisor for one of the neighborhoods near yours. He has been dealing with Donna for years. She keeps filing complaints about his patrol routes, claims his guards are trespassing. He is tired of her. Let me see if he will talk to you. I told him to make the call. 20 minutes later, I got a text from a number I did not recognize. The message was short. Meet me at the South Gate tomorrow morning. 7 a.m. Bring your documents. The name at the bottom was Marcus. I met Marcus at the South Gate of the Enclave at Stonegate Landing the next morning. He was a tall man in his 50s with a gray jacket and a radio clipped to his belt. He shook my hand and got straight to the point. Donna has been filing complaints against my company for 2 years. She claims we are violating resident privacy, but what she really wants is to control who we talk to. She does not like it when security sees her measuring driveways at 6 in the morning. I asked him what he meant. He pulled out his phone and showed me a series of photos. Each one showed Donna in her pink bucket hat, standing in front of different houses with her tape measure out, her stack of pre-filled forms visible under her arm. The photos were time-stamped over the past 18 months. She targets people who improve their property. New fence, new driveway, new landscaping, anything that makes the house look better. She waits for the delivery, then she strikes. I asked him why. He shrugged. Some people think enforcement is power. Donna is one of them. Marcus told me he had been documenting her routine for months. He had call logs, incident reports, and witness statements from other residents who had been targeted. He said he would help me, but I had to be smart about it. Do not confront her alone. Do not give her anything she can twist. And whatever you do, do not let her isolate you. She works best when you are alone and scared. I asked him what I should do next. He told me to wait for her next move. He said she would escalate, and when she did, I needed to have a witness ready. He handed me a business card with his direct number on it. Call me the moment she shows up again. I will be there. Donna showed up 2 days later. I was in the front yard organizing tools when her silver sedan pulled up. She got out with her clipboard and her stack of pre-filled forms. This time, she had company. A man in a polo shirt and khakis stood beside her, holding a camera with a long lens. She pointed at my driveway and started talking to the man, loud enough for me to hear. You can see the survey stakes are missing. He removed them to hide the encroachment. The survey stakes were not missing. They were still there, right where the surveyor had placed them 6 weeks ago. But Donna was not looking at the stakes. She was looking at the camera, making sure the man was recording. I pulled out my phone and called Marcus. He answered on the first ring. She is here. She brought a photographer. I will be there in 5 minutes. Do not engage. I stayed quiet and kept my distance. Donna walked the property line with her tape measure again, calling out fake measurements to the photographer. She crouched by the curb, stretched the tape across the grass, and made a show of writing numbers on her clipboard. Then she walked up to my front door and taped another notice to the wood. This one was different. It was printed on legal-sized paper with bold headers. It claimed I was in violation of multiple covenants and had refused to cooperate with HOA enforcement. It included a demand for immediate removal of all materials and a threat of legal action if I did not comply within 72 hours. It also included an itemized bill. The total was now $3,000. Marcus arrived before Donna could leave. He pulled up in a white truck with a security company logo on the side and stepped out with his radio in hand. Donna froze. The photographer lowered his camera. Marcus walked straight to Donna and stood between her and my property. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. You are on private property without authorization. You need to leave. Donna tried to argue. She said she was performing HOA duties. Marcus pointed to the street. HOA duties do not include trespassing or harassment. You have been asked to leave. If you do not leave, I will call the police and file a report. Donna looked at the photographer. The photographer looked at his camera. Neither of them moved. Marcus pulled out his phone and started dialing. That was when Donna finally stepped back. This is not over. She got in her car and drove away. The photographer followed. Marcus turned to me and nodded. That bought you some time. But she is going to escalate. You need to be ready. I asked him what he meant. He pointed at the notice on my door. She is setting up a lien. Once that goes through, you are stuck. You need to force her hand before she files. I asked him how. He smiled. You let her think she is winning. Then you hit her with everything at once. Gil called me that afternoon. He said the contractor crew was ready to start, but they needed my approval. I told him to hold off. I needed one more piece of the puzzle. I drove to the county records office and requested a copy of the official subdivision plat. It took an hour, but I got it. The plat showed every property line, every easement, and every setback requirement for the enclave at Stonegate Landing. I compared it to the survey I had on file. The numbers matched perfectly. My fence was legal. Donna had been lying the entire time. But that was not the best part. The plat also showed a revision date. The subdivision had been resurveyed 2 years ago after a drainage dispute. The revised survey was on file with the city and with the HOA. Donna had access to it. She had ignored it. I made 3 copies of the plat, one for me, one for Marcus, and one for Gil. Then I went home and waited. Donna did not disappoint. She showed up the next morning with a tow truck. If you are loving this chaos, hit that like button and subscribe for more wild HOA stories. The tow truck pulled up in front of my house at 6:30 in the morning. I was awake because my daughter was with me and I was making her breakfast before school. When I heard the engine, I looked out the window and saw Donna standing on the sidewalk pointing at my truck. She had called a tow company and claimed my truck was abandoned. I walked outside with my phone already recording. The tow driver was hooking up the chain when I reached him. I asked him what he was doing. He said he had a work order from the HOA to remove an abandoned vehicle. I told him the truck was not abandoned. I told him I was the owner and I was standing right here. He looked at Donna. Donna held up her clipboard. The vehicle has been parked in violation of community standards for more than 72 hours. We have the authority to remove it. I asked her to show me the rule. She flipped through her clipboard and pulled out a laminated sheet. The sheet listed parking violations, but none of them applied to my truck. My truck was in my own driveway, on my own property, legally registered and insured. The tow driver read the sheet, then looked at me. He was not convinced. I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I had taken over the past week, the ones that showed my truck in the same spot, clearly on my property, never blocking anything. Then I showed him the survey plat. The driver studied the plat for a long moment. Then he unhooked the chain. I am not towing a vehicle off private property without a court order. You need to call your supervisor and sort this out. Donna stepped forward, her face red. She started yelling at the driver, telling him he was interfering with HOA enforcement, threatening to report him to his company. The driver ignored her. He got in his truck and drove away. Donna turned to me, shaking with rage. You think you are clever. You think you can fight this. You are going to lose everything. I did not respond. I just kept recording. She stared at me for another moment. Then she got in her car and left. That afternoon, Marcus called me. He said Donna had filed a formal complaint with his security company, claiming his guards were harassing her and interfering with HOA business. The complaint included a request to have Marcus removed from patrol duty in the enclave at Stonegate Landing. Marcus was not worried. He said his company had been dealing with Donna for years and they knew her tactics. But he also said the complaint was a sign that Donna was feeling pressure. She was lashing out. That means you are winning. Keep pushing. I asked him what the next step was. He told me to prepare for the hearing. Donna had scheduled an emergency HOA board meeting for the following week, and I was the only item on the agenda. The meeting was mandatory. If I did not attend, the board would vote in absentia, and the lien would go through automatically. Marcus said he would be there as a witness. He also said he was bringing documentation of every complaint Donna had filed against his company, every false claim, every harassment incident. He said it was time to show the board who Donna really was. I spent the next 3 days preparing. I organized my timeline into a presentation. I printed photos, receipts, emails, and permits. I printed the survey plat and highlighted the measurements. I printed the city permit with the official stamp. I printed the approval letter from the Architectural Review Committee. And then I printed one more thing. I had requested HOA financial records under the association bylaws. Every homeowner has the right to inspect the records. It took 2 formal requests and a threat to file a complaint with the state, but I finally got them. The records showed a pattern. Over the past 3 years, Donna had issued more than 40 violation notices to homeowners. 32 of those notices had resulted in fines. 21 of those fines had been paid. But only 9 of those payments had been recorded in the HOA budget. $12,000 was missing. The HOA board meeting was held in the community clubhouse on a Thursday evening. I arrived early with my binder and my documents. Marcus was already there, standing near the back with his arms crossed. A few other residents trickled in, most of them looking confused about why they had been summoned. Donna sat at the head table with 3 other board members. She had her stack of pre-filled forms in front of her and a laptop open beside her. When I walked in, she smiled. The meeting started exactly on time. The board president, an older man named Richard, read the agenda. There was only one item: alleged violations by a homeowner regarding unauthorized fence installation and refusal to comply with HOA standards. Richard asked Donna to present her case. Donna stood and launched into a prepared speech. She said I had ignored multiple notices, missed a mandatory hearing, and refused to cooperate with enforcement. She said my fence was a safety hazard, a drainage risk, and a violation of community aesthetics. She said the HOA had no choice but to impose fines and initiate lien proceedings. She spoke for 10 minutes without pausing. When she finished, she sat down and folded her hands on the table, looking pleased with herself. Richard turned to me. "Do you have anything to say?" I stood and opened my binder. I started with the timeline. I showed the board the email I had sent to the Architectural Review Committee 6 weeks ago. I showed them the approval letter I had received. I showed them the city permit. I showed them the contractor's license and insurance certificate. Then I showed them the survey plat. I explained that the plat was on file with the city and with the HOA. I explained that the measurements on the plat matched my survey exactly. I explained that my fence was fully compliant with every setback requirement. Donna interrupted. "That survey is outdated. We updated the guidelines." I asked her to show me the updated guidelines. She hesitated. Richard asked her the same question. She said the guidelines were still in committee review. I pulled out a printed copy of the HOA bylaws and read the relevant section aloud. According to the bylaws, any changes to architectural standards must be approved by a majority vote of the full board and published to all homeowners at least 30 days before taking effect. I asked Donna when the guidelines were updated. She did not answer. I asked her when the vote was held. She did not answer. I asked her when the updated guidelines were published. She did not answer. Richard looked at the other board members. One of them, a woman named Janet, shook her head. "We never voted on updated guidelines." Donna tried to recover. She said the guidelines were implied by community standards. She said homeowners had a responsibility to maintain aesthetics. She said my fence was still a violation even if the survey was technically correct. That was when Marcus stood up. Marcus introduced himself and explained his role as a security supervisor. He said he had been documenting Donna's enforcement activities for 2 years. He said he had evidence of harassment, false complaints, and selective targeting. He placed a folder on the table in front of Richard. The folder contained incident reports, photos, and call logs. Richard opened it and started reading. His expression changed. Donna tried to interrupt. Marcus kept talking. He said Donna had filed more than 20 complaints against his company, all of them claiming privacy violations or trespassing. He said every complaint had been investigated and dismissed. He said Donna had a pattern of using enforcement as a weapon against anyone who questioned her authority. Then he said something that made the room go silent. She also has a pattern of targeting homeowners during vulnerable times. Single parents, people with custody arrangements, people who work nights. She watches, she waits, and she strikes when they are least able to fight back. Richard looked at Donna. Donna stood up, her face pale. This is defamation. I am performing my duties as Community Standards Chair. If you have a problem with that, you can file a formal complaint. I stood up and placed my second folder on the table. This one contained the HOA financial records. I explained what I had found. I explained the missing payments. I showed the board the spreadsheet I had built, the one that tracked every violation notice Donna had issued, every fine she had collected, and every payment that had disappeared. Richard read the spreadsheet in silence. Then he looked at Donna. Where is the money? Donna did not answer. She grabbed her clipboard and her stack of pre-filled forms and walked toward the door. Richard called after her. Donna, you need to answer the question. She stopped at the door and turned around. Her voice was shaking. You think this is petty. I think this is my purpose. Then she left. The board voted unanimously to suspend all fines and violations related to my fence. They also voted to initiate an audit of HOA finances and to refer the matter to the management company for investigation. Richard apologized to me personally and said the board would issue a formal policy clarification within 30 days. But that was not the end. 2 weeks later, Gil called me. He said the contractor crew was ready to start and he wanted to be there for the first day. I told him to come ahead. The crew arrived on a Saturday morning. They unloaded the posts, set up the string line, and started digging post holes. Everything went smoothly. No interruptions. No surprise inspections. No Donna. By noon, the posts were in. By evening, the panels were up. By Sunday night, the fence was finished. It looked perfect. It was exactly what I had planned, exactly where the survey said it should be, exactly compliant with every rule. 3 weeks after that, the HOA held another board meeting. This time, the agenda included a proposal to update the fence policy. The proposal included clear measurements, setback requirements, and a streamlined approval process. It also included a clause that voided every warning and violation Donna had issued during her tenure as Community Standards Chair. The board voted unanimously to approve the proposal. Donna did not attend the meeting. According to Richard, she had resigned from the board the day after the audit results came in. The audit had confirmed what I had found. $12,000 in fines had been collected and never deposited. The management company had filed a report with local authorities. Marcus told me later that Donna had also lost her credibility with other board members. During the audit, several homeowners came forward with their own stories of harassment, fake violations, and selective enforcement. Her stopwatch and ruler routine got mocked by the room during one particularly heated testimony when a resident described how Donna had measured his mailbox post 6 times in 1 week, each time claiming a different violation. The board agreed to mediation with a neutral third party to review all outstanding violations and refunds. Donna was not invited. The final showdown happened at the contractor yard where Gil worked. Donna had filed a complaint with the city, claiming Gil's crew had violated building codes during my fence installation. The complaint triggered an inspection. The inspector arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Gil invited me to the yard so I could be there when the inspector reviewed the work. Donna showed up uninvited. She stood in the yard with her clipboard, her tape measure, and her stack of pre-filled forms. She started pointing out alleged violations before the inspector even got out of his truck. She claimed the posts were not deep enough. She claimed the panels were not level. She claimed the gate swung the wrong way. The inspector ignored her. He walked the fence line with a level and a tape measure, checking every post, every panel, every hinge. He took photos. He made notes. Then he turned to Gil and nodded. Everything is code compliant. Well done. Donna stepped forward, her voice rising. That is not possible. I measured it myself. The setback is wrong. The inspector pulled out his own copy of the survey plat and showed it to Donna. He pointed to the measurements. He explained that the fence was exactly where it was supposed to be, exactly compliant with city code and HOA covenants. Donna tried to argue. The inspector cut her off. Ma'am, if you have a complaint, you need to file it through the proper channels. Right now, I am closing this inspection as approved. If you interfere further, I will file a harassment complaint. Donna opened her mouth to say something else, but Gil's phone rang. He answered it on speaker. It was the HOA management company. They were calling to inform Donna that her complaint had been dismissed and that she was no longer authorized to represent the HOA in any enforcement matters. The voice on the phone was calm and professional. It explained that the audit had revealed financial discrepancies and procedural violations. It explained that Donna's actions had exposed the HOA to legal liability. It explained that the board had voted to remove her from all positions effective immediately. Donna stood there, frozen, as the voice continued. When the call ended, she looked at me, then at Gil, then at the inspector. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. She turned and walked to her car without another word. Gil clapped me on the shoulder. That is how you do it. You wait, you document, and you let them bury themselves. The inspector handed me a signed copy of the approval form. He told me to keep it on file in case anyone ever questioned the work again. Then he got in his truck and drove away. I stood there in the contractor yard for a moment, looking at the approval form in my hand. It was over. The fence was legal. The fines were voided. Donna was gone. The HOA had agreed to update the policy and void every violation she had issued during her reign of selective enforcement. But the best part was not the policy change. It was not the audit. It was not even the fact that Donna had lost her position. The best part was the look on her face when the management company called. The moment she realized that her stopwatch and ruler routine, her pre-filled forms, her fake notices, and her selective targeting had finally caught up with her. The moment she realized that the airspace she claimed to own was not hers after all. I drove home that evening and stood in my front yard, looking at the fence. It was exactly what I had wanted. Clean lines. Solid posts, level panels, legal, compliant, mine. I pulled out my phone and called my daughter. I told her she could come over this weekend and help me paint the gate. She asked what color. I told her any color she wanted. That weekend, we painted the gate bright blue. My daughter chose the color because she said it looked like the sky. I did not argue. It was perfect. Marcus stopped by on Sunday afternoon. He brought coffee and a newspaper. He pointed to a small article on page 6. The article reported that a local HOA board member had resigned amid an ongoing financial audit. The article did not name Donna, but Marcus and I both knew who it was. He raised his coffee cup. To property rights. I raised mine. To documentation. We sat on the porch and watched the neighborhood go by. A few cars slowed down as they passed. their drivers looking at the new fence, nodding in approval. One neighbor, an older man I had never spoken to, stopped and rolled down his window. "That looks great. Glad you got it done." I thanked him. He drove away. Marcus finished his coffee and stood to leave. "If Donna ever comes back, you call me." I told him I would. But I did not think she would be back. The HOA had moved on. The board had implemented the new policy. The management company was handling enforcement now, and they were following the actual rules. Donna's era of selective enforcement was over. That night, I sat in my living room and went through my binder one last time. I looked at the timeline, the receipts, the photos, the survey plat. I looked at the financial records that had exposed the missing funds. I looked at Marcus's incident reports that had shown the pattern of harassment. I thought about the moment in the contractor yard when the management company had called. The moment when Donna realized her credibility had collapsed in front of witnesses. The moment when a policy clarification destroyed her favorite tactic. I thought about the stack of pre-filled violation forms she had carried everywhere. The ones with boxes already checked. The ones that assumed guilt before evidence. I thought about the tape measure she had used like a weapon. The ruler routine that had been mocked by the room during the audit hearings. I thought about the way she had targeted me because she thought I would fold. Because I worked nights. Because I had a custody schedule. Because I was an easy target. She had been wrong. I closed the binder and put it on the shelf. I did not need it anymore. The fence was up. The fines were voided. The policy was updated. The HOA was operating under actual rules now, not Donna's invented guidelines. A few months later, I ran into Gil at a hardware store. He told me the contractor crew had finished 3 more fence projects in the enclave at Stonegate Landing since mine. All of them had gone smoothly. No fake violations, no harassment, no Donna. He also told me that Donna had moved out of the neighborhood. Someone at the management company had mentioned it during a routine call. She had sold her house and left Anchorage. I did not ask where she went. I did not care. The subdivision was quieter now. The HOA board meetings were shorter. The violation notices were fewer. The enforcement was fair. The enclave at Stonegate Landing had become what it was supposed to be all along. A neighborhood. Not a battleground. I stood in my front yard one evening and watched the sun set over the fence. The blue gate glowed in the fading light. My daughter's handprints were still faintly visible on the bottom rail where she had leaned against it while the paint dried. I thought about everything that had happened. The delivery truck. The fake notices. The tow truck. The board meeting. The audit. The contractor yard. The call on speaker. I thought about the moment when I had handed Marcus a copy of the financial records first, then presented them together so Donna could not isolate me. The moment when her whole strategy had collapsed because I had refused to face her alone. I thought about the way selective enforcement ramps up the moment you improve anything in a neighborhood like this. The way someone like Donna watches and waits and strikes when you are vulnerable. And I thought about the way you fight back. Not with anger, not with threats, not with matching her cruelty. You fight back with documentation, with allies, with patience, with the actual rules. You let her think she is winning, and then you bury her with the truth. The fence stood solid and straight. The gate swung smoothly. The posts were deep and the panels were level. Everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. Legal. Compliant. Mine. I walked inside and closed the door. I hope your day stays calm.